I left, and I was promised that the groundbreaking would be that fall. And here we are, 3 years later. Now it's 2025. In my lifetime, I have seen so many libraries being built throughout the borough of Queens, and I don't understand why it's taking so long to build this library. It just boggles my mind. 1993, Bill de Blasio came to a town hall meeting and put the last amount of money into the library. Now you're saying the library is going to cost $46 million?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm flabbergasted. It's not your
Yeah, I
fault.
know, I can't speak to that.
No, I know, it's not your fault, I understand that. But I just want everybody to know how frustrating it has been. David Aronoff came to work for me when he was 15 years old. Doing the library, and here he is now. And he's like, late 20s.
Okay, that's if I could just say one thing as well. I mean, the library knows this, CDC knows this, but the community board has also been fighting for this library for a very long time. For the 18 years that I've been working here, it's been part of our budget priorities. It's been part of the testimony that we give to the borough president every year. And we will not stop fighting for it and every year we say, can we take the Rego Park Library off our budget priorities? And we always say no, because we won't, unfortunately, until we see that shovel in the ground, I think that we're all gonna just be as skeptical. So the community board will not stop fighting, and that's why we asked them to come and give this presentation tonight. Some of you have seen this presentation before if you've been on the community board for a while, but our community board has changed significantly, so we wanted to make sure that everybody knew what was coming, so that when we continue to fight for the library, you know what we're fighting for. So I can't speak to before I came here, but for at least the last 18 years, the community board has also been advocating for this library. So we're excited, but a little skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, think back to where y'all were in 1993. I just moved to New York, and since then I've birthed babies. My babies are now in college. I've gotten married. I haven't divorced them yet. You know, you know, that's, if you think back in your own personal life, how long, what's happened in your life since 93, it's something. Brentley. Oh, she got you. Okay.
Mine's a short question. I noticed that you have a green roof. Is that going to be accessible for people, or is it just to show that you have a green roof?
Well, it's not accessible due to the height limitations of the property within zoning. The green roof, it's not to show it, it's actually part of local law 97 and all the energy compliances that we're designing the building to do. That's also partially why the facade is designed in a way that has more opacity, but is strategic and specific with fenestration to allow natural light in while conserving energy.
Next up, Edgar.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm really excited about the children's reading room. And I think you mentioned acoustic isolation. Is that, so I'm just thinking, I have a toddler and he has a love of reading, but also a love of being very loud and excited. Does this mean that when children in this room can be relatively loud without disturbing everyone else? I'd like to get a sense of that, because that does impact my experience with going to the library with him.
Right, yeah, of course. I mean, we would hope that the children aren't screaming perpetually in the library, but the idea is that the wall is designed with asymmetrical laminated glass, which allows for sound to be dampened being transferred from one room to the next. In addition, as Jackie was mentioning, we have a highly absorptive, the entire ceiling of the space is acoustically absorptive material, designed also to be accessible so that the library can maintain all of the mechanical equipment above it. The carpeted areas, the soft seating, the soft furniture, those are absorptive as well. In addition to the books, they actually act acoustically. So will it be infallible and you won't hear anything? Probably not. If someone screams on top of their lungs, you might hear a little something. But the idea is that as part of the design, the priority was to encourage both keeping a very tight site to feeling generous and to make sure that people see each other, but being reasonable within the acoustic properties of what the isolation would be. So it's not, I'm not an acoustician, so I can't answer it in a highly technical way, but yes, it will be comfortable that people won't be disturbed with children being children.
Pedro.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I also have a toddler, and I was curious because I didn't see anything about elevators. So I was curious how many there were, and just like where exactly are they?
Sure, there's one elevator in the building, because it's a fairly small, compact building. The elevator is right next to, if you remember where that V-shaped major stair was, it's just to the left. So it's near the staff support space. And actually on the children's floor, one of the things that we learned through Queens Public Library and working with the DDC is stroller parking. So there's an entire stroller parking area just north of the elevator, in addition to in front of the community room. So if you bring your child in a stroller, you'll actually have a place to put it.
Can the elevator pay multiple
I'm sorry,
stories?
Pedro, it's one question per person because I want to make sure.
Quick answer, yes.
Sorry. Martha?
Hi, I was a little, thank you for this. I'm so excited about this. We waited a long time for this. However, as being a major asthmatic and my daughter being a major asthmatic, I don't understand the carpeting. I was actually told by my doctor when she had her first major asthma attack to rip all the carpeting up. And now we have carpeting in a public facility. Not only does it have to be maintained, but it's going to be very costly. Is there any way to revisit? Do we need the carpeting?
I would defer to QPL on that in terms of programming.
Hi, Martha. Thanks for asking that question. I'm looking, if you see me, to my colleague from our capital department, Thea Dawood, who might be able to give a little bit more insight into that question. Definitely better response than I could give.
Evening. So, in terms of carpeting, we utilize that not only, as Matthew said, for acoustic purposes, but it's a soft material that lends itself to the library. So it's a comfortable feeling, and you feel like it's much more relaxed atmosphere. And we do have a great maintenance program, so it will be taken care of. I'm sorry, what was the matter?
HVAC, with HVAC? HVAC, that would be a part of the design?
Oh, absolutely, yes, it is. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the question, Martha. Next up is Saba, and thank you for coming up.
It's a quick one. I did see that the teens go to the basement. Is there going to be, I see that there's stairs and there's elevators, but is there one elevator or two elevators?
There's one elevator.
There's one elevator?
Thank you. Latrice?
Thank you. Testing, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
We hear just
Good
fine.
evening and thank you for the presentation. I am a library user. I am a member of the Land Use Housing Landmarks Committee. I am a member of the Transportation Street Safety Committee. And I live a stone's throw from the library. And so my question to this panel is, when construction starts, I'm just curious to know about the possible impact, because the way traffic on Austin and 63rd, Austin Street is one-way eastbound, and a lot of times you have traffic turning off of Austin onto 63rd Drive heading toward Woodhaven. There's also a bus stop in front of the library. And across 63rd Drive, where the Shalimar Diner used to be, you have that construction finishing up. And so I am just curious to know, once construction starts, what impact, if any, it will have on mass transit, because Austin Street is pretty narrow as it is. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Well, DDC will give a minimum of 72-hour notice to the public, letting them know of any impacts that we are aware of. So if we have to close the street or potentially temporarily redirect traffic or move the bus stop, we will let you know that before, at least minimum 72 hours. But I think Ari also wanted to add something.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, I'll just add to that. So this is not the first time we presented, including recently, right, where we presented to committee of this board. So what we often do is once the contractor is on board and is starting to make the plans for traffic safety, then we can come back and speak to that with more specifics. So again, that's going to be around the springtime because the contractor is the one who's legally responsible for making those plans, and then we can share that information. So we're happy to come back for that.
And just so you know, Christine chairs a monthly meeting with all of our agencies, and should there become a problem, we can discuss it. And we won't wait for agency meetings to have those discussions if there are problems. And the other thing is, meeting monthly, he's been very good, especially with that water main capital. If he works with us the same way he worked with us on that water main project, we're going to be good as gold, because we got really good advance notice of all of that work. But that was a great question on the Latrice. Next up is Effie, then Herb, and then last question will be from Mark.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. My question really relates to finance. I'll break it down into a couple of questions. My initial reaction is that 3 years, it's a small building. It seems to me like 3 years is a long time to build a small structure like this. And 46+ million seems to me quite a bit, not being a professional. That's just my impression. Regarding the finances, first, the 46+ million, is that including just construction, or that includes later interior, books, electronic equipment, everything else? Also, what happens to financing if, let's say, 2 years into it, we ran out of money, or 3 years later, we need an extra 10 million that we don't have? Like, how does that work?
I'll answer the construction, and I'll defer to Louisa on the financing portion. So it does sound like a long time. Dealing with the city agencies, and all the requirements is complicated. So DDC builds and repairs or renovates libraries all across the city. So 3 years is a typical time, especially for a brand new building as is being constructed here. And it's better for us to tell you that now than to say 2 years and then we have to come back and say it's going to be longer, it's going to be longer. So we're giving you the realistic estimate based on experience and based on the contract. It's best to figure the 3 years. And I'll defer to Louisa on the financing.
Sure, thank you for that question. So yes, that $46 million number cited earlier, I think it was, right, is just for the DDC construction costs. That does not include like furniture and things of that nature and the design costs involved. In total, it was almost $56 million. So there are extra funds there for those things that you cited.
What happened?
Okay.
They
asked, you gotta move on.
We have that funding.
They have the funding. Okay, next will be Herb and Mark. I'm gonna take a second round only from people who have not asked questions. So I have David and anyone else want to ask, and then Keith and then Peter, and this will be the last round. Okay, so it'll go David, Keith, and Peter when we get into the second round, and then we will wrap with this. So next, Herb, make it short and sweet.
Yeah, I wasn't on previous meetings with the committee, so I guess this was covered because this wasn't mentioned yet. And the library is located half a block from a railroad. I guess the library is just finished on Main Street in Kew Garden Hills, not near a railroad. This one is. Is there a difference in the treatment for acoustics to shield when a train comes by? You know what I mean. So
Yeah, no, I understand. So it does get taken into account. That's actually a party wall, that south facade that faces the railroad. So it's a completely solid brick wall that's probably 12+ inches in thickness with acoustic bat. The material itself, brick is a dense material that absorbs sound. The glazing on this project is a double glazed system that has a series of gaskets that also help mitigate the transmission of noise, even street noise, from the bus and other, the trucks that go to the grocery store on the corner, et cetera. So all of those things are taken into account when we design the building.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I go to Kew Garden Hills a lot, and I remember with the Kew Garden Hills Library, and that was somewhat challenging. I think the projected time was very long. So my question is, when the Kew Garden Hills Library was being redone, there was another location for the Kew Garden Hills Library. Is that what's going to happen here in the Regal Park Library? Is there going to be a location when you're working on the Regal Park Library?
Yep, at Kew Garden Hills Library, we had a swing space. There will not be that kind of swing space for this project. We don't use swing space really anymore. We will have mobile library service serving the community during the construction.
I would like to mention that the district manager and I had a meeting with Robert Holden, this is in his district, and he was amenable to trying to find a way to sponsor and finance a space. It should become open there. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but we did have, and we've broached that in a conversation with him because we know that we've heard that over in every presentation we've had, that's been raised. So we'll continue to reach out to the council member and see what's feasible in that area. Because, Rite Aid on the corner is vacant right now. Okay, next in the second round is David Aronoff, then Keith Engel, and then Peter Beadle. Oh, your question was answered, so Peter comes off the list. Yeah, David.
Hey, great. Good evening, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the adult reading room. It looks like it's one open layout. I'm not sure if that's a separate enclosure and the blueprint is another room. Is any portion of it supposed to be like a quiet intended space for the adult reading room?
So you're correct. The first floor is an open concept reading room. There's computer stations that you see tucked in that alcove that's adjacent to the double height space that looks down to the teens area. The quiet room, due to the plan constrictions, is actually down on the teens level. So it's anticipated that adults will also be down there, which was something that was discussed at length during the design, which we felt was also a good thing to have adults and teens mixing on the same floor.
And next is Keith.
Thank you for that. So thank you for the presentation tonight. That was great to see. Just a question. I know you mentioned some sustainability measures having to do more with like Local Law 97 and green roof compliance, like Local Law 94 and 92. Curious if there's things that you're doing that are more like certification based, like LEED, well standards, like things like that. If you could maybe kind of talk through that a little bit.
Sure. So we're not applying for WELL standards, although WELL and LEED tend to overlap in their requirements. We are doing a minimum of LEED silver, but we're shooting for LEED gold. So that's, for those who are not familiar with LEED, it's Leadership in Environmental, I forget the exact acronym, and I'm a LEED AP, but it's environmental design. And so there's platinum, gold, silver, and then bronze. So contractually, we were asked to reach silver, but it looks like we're reaching toward gold, which is a very hard benchmark. LEED also goes through a series of revisions every couple of years, so they learn from industry, and it actually becomes harder and harder and makes architects and engineers think smarter to actually achieve energy sustainability. So we're shooting for a high gold. You're welcome.
I just have a few quick popcorn questions. Gender neutral bathrooms, yes, no? Yes, okay. Will the construction be 5 days a week or 7 days a week or 6 days a week? What do you anticipate?
Yeah, that's a good question for us to answer when we have the contractor on board.
All right, fair enough. And speaking of the contract, are we looking at union labor and are we looking at MWBEs for this labor?
Yes, both are required.
Yes, both are required. Okay, and are you guys going to be planting trees outside? Yes, no? Yes, trees outside. And that's all I have to say. But the interesting thing is, one thing that came up, yeah, Kevin, okay, I'll let you take one quick question.
Will there be blinds for the large windows?
There will be, yes.
Oh, yes, there will be. And then just so you guys know, this was interesting, because you guys called it in the teen room, you called it a quiet room. But I believe it's a quiet room designed in such a way for teens to be loud, right? And I loved that, because it gives a space for teens to be themselves, but they don't have to interfere with everyone else while they're being themselves. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, because I think that's kind of cool. All right, guys, thank you so much. If we could give them a huge round of applause. Thank you so much. Welcome. Okay, all right, now, next. I think we're doing pretty okay tonight. Thank you, guys. That was like the best Q&A session I think we've done in a while. Fabulous. Okay, next up is our friend Brentley. Can you come to the thingy-jiggy? Are you going to do it from there? Okay, he's going to do double today. He's going to do two things one time. Okay, Brentley's going to give the report tonight for Consumer Affairs. Take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Brentley. I'm one of the co-chairs for Consumer Affairs. So first off, I just want to make sure they're in the audience. Oh, I see you guys. Hi, could you just come on up here? Because I'm just going to introduce you and then have you guys, if you may have any questions. So we convened on September 5th, the Consumer Affairs Committee, and we had a chance to talk to Curaleaf. As we mentioned earlier, they have been in the medicinal cannabis business, and they are opening an adult use cannabis wing, which we all have seen. They have opened that, and they've graciously joined us tonight to answer your questions. We did come to the recommendation that we are recommending this to the for them to have for the community, and we did that through a forum, actually, as you mentioned earlier. So we were able to do that. But I just want to kind of give the floor to Curaleaf to see if there are any questions. But before I ask you as the board to ask your question, I did want to kind of follow up on our question. I don't know if you had a chance to look that over. If you want me to
can you repeat the question for the crowd?
Yeah, I was getting ready to do that. So the question that we had, sorry, I remember to do this on my phone, so I put this out, not knowing I was going to do this. Okay, so the key issue that was emerged was the committee sought clarification on how Curaleaf plans to advertise their business now that adult use cannabis will be included. This aspect just remains unresolved at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And there was one further clarification question that the committee had asked us at our meeting last week that was regarding a radio commercial that one of the committee members had heard out on Long Island. They wanted to know if that was a Connecticut Curaleaf commercial or a New York one. We did double check on that, and that was from Connecticut. As far as advertising for this store, we have the benefit of having been open for 6 years in the community. So many people already know where we are. And so most of the advertising focus has been on making sure that medical patients know that we are continuing the level of service for them and all of the benefits that come with being a medical patient at Curaleaf, as well as advertising the fact that they are now open for adult use. So much of the advertising has just been in the form of like a window cling on the front of the store, notifying people that it is open now for adult use. In addition to that, they've also done some advertising online on cannabis-focused websites like Leafly and Weedmaps. The reason for that is because those audiences are 21 plus, and they are maybe interested in the brand.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, we did circulate the questionnaire, so I'm sure that might have percolated a few questions. We'll take one round of questions if there are any. So if you do have questions, if you could raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to go this way around the room this time. Okay, we're going to start with Mr. Bruce Grossberg, Mr. Effie Zachary, down to Miss Saba, she's a repeat customer, Kevin Lee, and then Edgar Alfonseca. Going once, going twice. This is your only chance to ask a question tonight. Anyone else have? All right, we're going to kick it off with our friend Bruce Grossberg. Bruce.
Hi, so I'm sorry I have not been to prior meetings on this issue. These might be simplistic questions, but I'm looking at your security, the Institute security questions on page 5. And it says, what's the number of security guards working and their working hours? You say one security guard working from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's not accurate. So I appreciate that you'll always have a security guard available. But are you gonna, is that 20 people splitting the work? Is that 5 people? Are they the security people, just security people, are also clerks who take a shift now and then? How's that work out?
Yeah, so I apologize, we should have clarified that on the questionnaire. So there are 2 additional security guards that serve as delivery drivers for deliveries to medical patients. So for example, if the main security guard were to take a break or go get lunch, then one of those delivery drivers would take their place. And sorry, I'm Benjamin Duke. Nice to meet you all. Good to see some of you again. This is my colleague Peter and Denise from Curaleaf.
Okay, next follow-up question. We'll come back. Yeah, Effie? Effie's next.
Thanks for coming. I believe there's a rule that I think you have to be at least 500 feet away from a school. I believe that, I'm guessing Russell Stage is the closest, and I believe it's probably more than 500 feet away. However, houses of worship are supposed to be more than 200 feet away. I'm pretty sure that there's at least 2 houses of worship within 1 block, and I'm certain it's less than 200 feet away.
So we did check this against the state mapping, which shows where the houses of worship are. I'm not aware of the 2 that would be on the same block. I'm
It's
not sure.
1 block away on 70.
On 70th Ave?
Is it Avenue?
Yes.
Yeah, the big Bukharian
So-
Center.
Be on the same street as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you can't measure like around the corner, it
No,
has to be on
it's the block across the street.
No, this is on Restaurant Row.
Have you know
What?
the post next to the post office?
Yes, across from the post
Yeah,
office.
but that's not the same street.
But it's a block.
Yeah, but
It's another.
it's beyond the
Okay, so even though it's less than 200 feet, it's still legal. That's basically the bottom line.
That's correct. Under the regulations, it is 200 feet and on the same road. We've had very positive interactions with all of our neighbors, and we haven't had any sort of negative experiences. Certainly, if any of those organizations wanted to have a conversation with Curaleaf, we would welcome that.
Thank you.
Next up is Saba.
Sorry, Saba, it's a far walk.
You got it. I have a very short, small question. What percentage do you think your adult cannabis use will be compared to your medical dispensary?
So, I believe currently adult use is about half compared to medical patients. As time progresses and more adult use consumers become aware of the fact that it's open for adult use, that may change. But for now, it's about 2 to 1 medical patients to adult use consumers.
Thank you.
Next up, Kevin.
Yeah. So how does Curaleaf ensure responsible prescribing practices of medical cannabis, and what measures are in place to promote responsible sales of recreational cannabis?
Yeah, so as far as medical goes, all medical dispensing activities are overseen by a state licensed pharmacist that has also taken additional coursework in cannabis specifically. So they're on site at all times that medical dispensing is occurring. As far as adult use consumers, staff members at Curaleaf undergo training on the compounds in cannabis, how to give advice if a consumer wanted it for a specific purpose. And so they're all trained on providing that sort of advice. As far as responsibility in terms of limits, there are state limits on how much you can purchase at a given day, and no cannabis is allowed to be dispensed to anybody that appears to be, under the influence or anything like that.
I think the system, if I'm not mistaken, is similar to like if you're getting Adderall. You can't go get a refill in 15 days. You have to wait your 30 days. So it's a similar system, correct? To sort of how like amphetamines and so on are regulated, correct? In a regular pharmacy?
Yeah, that's correct. It's a 30-day supply, and all of that tracking is done through Curaleaf's electronic system in the store.
Thank you. Next question is Edgar.
Good evening. Thanks for being here, and thanks for filling out the questionnaire. It's very helpful. I don't know, maybe if I'm misremembering, but do you folks have any type of free educational programming for people around your products? Because I'm just thinking about young people that probably need to be educated on this. So I'd like to learn more about what that looks like and what ideas you have for that here.
Yes, in all of our New York locations for Curaleaf, we actually do hold what we call Medical Saturdays from 12 to 4 p.m. every Saturday. We, of course, welcome people to come in any day, but sometimes we know people feel more comfortable if there's a designated time. So yes, we welcome everyone to come visit us and chat and learn about cannabis.
What time is that Saturday?
12 to 4 p.m.
Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna do a second round just in case somebody didn't get to answer. Okay, Salwa, David, Bruce. Okay, you'll do the follow-up. So I'll start with Bruce on the follow-up, then. Okay, start on that side. Okay, Salwa. We'll go Salwa, David, and then Bruce. Oh, right. So David should go first because we're trying to do this thing where like executive committee answers asks last.
Thank you for being here and for submitting the questionnaire. Question about your Rooted in Good program, giving back to the community. Part of it says that you provide funding for local programming. If a community organization wants to reach out and request funding for local programming, what is the best way to do so? And is there parameters around what you would support in local programming?
So we do run everything through our compliance department, but we love to work organically with the community. So as simple as calling or coming into one of our locations and speaking with one of our team members, as we do seek out our team members as well to support anything that they may be involved in the community as well.
So someone in the store is best equipped
Yes.
for them.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bruce? I don't want you to scream, Bruce.
No screaming.
Next month, I promise. Be better.
I just want to re-ask the question I asked to start with in a different way, because that wasn't the answer that I asked, was trying to get, and I'm sure it's not really the answer that you meant to say. You're open 76 hours a week according to this application. And then I asked you how many security people you have. You can have one. And when he goes out to lunch, you're going to have somebody, some truck driver or some delivery person fill in for him. So I don't think you have a security guard working 76 hours a week. So that's what I'm trying to figure out is how many security guards do you have, how many of these people are actually to be security guards, and how many of the people are going to be delivery people helping out the lunch.
I'm 7 to 10. Sorry, I understood the question as on duty in the store at a time. So it's 7 to 10 actively employed by Curaleaf, and then that would rotate through in one person working in the store, 2 people typically running the delivery service to medical patients, but when they are not out on a delivery run, they would be in the store. Does that answer the question? Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, the folks who are doing the deliveries aren't delivery people per se. They are security people because of the nature of what they're delivering, correct? So that is why they can sort of slot in and out with one another, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They're all licensed security guards in the state of New York.
Thank you for that. Okay, no, we have to, I'm sorry. Your hand shut up like a rocket. Sorry. Salwa, you're gonna be the last question.
Wonderful. And of those security guards, whether they're stepping in, filling in, delivery adjacent or otherwise, will they all be trained in de-escalation techniques?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, all staff members are trained in de-escalation techniques. It's something that they take very seriously at the store. So they do that through a combination of things. That could be through training programs run by Curaleaf. That's through their program called Cura Campus. On top of that, they also do weeks where they do training, where they actively act out situations in which de-escalation might be required, prepare staff members and security guards for those situations in the real world.
Thank you guys so much. If you want to see how it rolls your way, you can go ahead and have a seat, or you can make your way home. There's a new Popeyes across the street. I got excited about seeing it. I'm sorry, if you're blind, you know there's a Popeyes across the street. It just, it calls me. This is why I take Lipitor. Okay, so, do we want to take the vote on this and then we move to the liquor? I mean, we're like an aide. We're taking votes over here. Okay, if you could tell me the recommendation, the board. Sorry, not me. I know.
The committee, through the convening of September 5th, the committee recommends approval of this application to add adult use cannabis to their current offerings.
Second. I just want to make one clarification in case Brent can make it clear enough. We are not voting on their medical cannabis dispensary. We are only voting on their retail cannabis dispensary.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a roll call vote, starting with, this is to approve the committee's recommendation.
What was the vote? Committee voted yes.
Okay, sorry.
Numbers.
This is so we can approve the minutes. Okay, Edgar Alfonseca.
Yes.
Okay, David Aronoff.
Yes.
Robert Ash.
Yes.
Juliet Avila.
Yes.
Avila, I'm sorry, it's Avila, right? Okay, yes. And, Anisi's not with us. Sawa?
Sawa's a no.
Okay. Kavish?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Howard?
Yeah.
Heidi? Does she have to go?
She left.
Okay, yeah. Okay. LT?
Yes.
Latrice?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Tamara?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Serena? We're having a problem. Can you get thumbs up for a yes, thumbs down for a no? Thumbs up, yes? Okay. Marcel?
Yes.
Okay. Mark Laster?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Dr. Renee?
Yes.
Okay. Pat Morgan? Yes. Okay. Saba?
Yes.
Okay. Natalie?
Yes.
Okay. Jessica Puran?
Yes.
Okay, there you are. Joy?
No.
Okay. Diana?
Yes.
Okay. Pedro? Sherry's not here. Matt Sultan?
Yes.
David Shantz?
Yes.
Herb?
Yes.
Amit?
Yes.
Okay, you're not here. Martha?
No.
Brentley?
Yes.
Effie?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So the yeses have it. Yes, Kevin, question.
Quick question. So if they open the retail operations first, close, but will Curaleaf be the first legally retail cannabis shop?
They are already open.
They're already open,
They're
okay.
already the first legal
Yeah.
cannabis shop in
Congrats,
our
guys.
community board.
Unfortunately, the time, thank you all for
Thank you
coming
all.
tonight.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, the time, the way this hit our mailbox basically was not in a way that we would prefer. We would prefer to do it exactly how we did tonight. However, because they have so many years, I think that's why they have sort of been seen as the gold standard. And Brentley, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that our interview with them was one of the best. And honestly, I think if they'd have gone first, I think we'd have had really something to compare to. Okay, so going on. You want to talk and then go into your liquor?
Yeah, so I just wanted to just mention one thing with what Heather said. This was the first application that we received, and all the ones that we've gotten in the last year and a half, that actually came with like example of. They came with an example of like what their signage would look like, which is something we've always said to these businesses. Could you give us an example of your signage? They never could. So this was one business. Granted, yes, they have open because they got to open in the early summers, but we were really impressed by them actually providing that signage to us.
Yeah.
So just an FYI.
Okay, so want to take us through the liquor?
Well, we have questions now, so.
Very quick. Do we have any updates on the illegal shops in the neighborhood?
She already gave that. No, the illegal shops. They've been shutting a lot down. So now that you know that there's only one legal shop in our community, if you see illegal shops, let us know. We can report them to the NYPD, and the marshal they have been shutting a lot of illegal shops down in our community. So they will continue to do that, and hopefully the presence of legal shops will discourage the people that are selling illegally. I think that's the goal in the end. So.
Most people learned.
It's a good question.
The Curaleaf presented to us years ago.
Yes.
Said, oh my God, we're gonna inundate, but they actually were the first we ever heard of medical, and they said that they insured it, it's only medical. So now we have to change our whole mindset and say this Curaleaf now is other things besides medical, but they were the first. So we were, like everyone sitting around the table, everyone's going to be smoking, they're going to be screaming. We we went through all this already.
Yeah, and to your
And also
point,
the library, the previous library, I think was built in 19, I remember that went up. That was
Right.
an old library. That was a library, not like Forest Hills.
Right,
That's
but
from
to
the
your-
1970s. I'm wondering, why did it only last 20 years?
It was a very small library,
It
and
was
it's
a
a
small
very,
library,
not to take up more time because we already spoke about the library, but
Historically,
it's a very small library. That's why we're getting a second floor, because we need more space in that library. It's a very highly utilized library. So that's, I don't know why they didn't do that to begin with, but.
because I think she was here, Karen was here with the first one. So
Yeah.
let's say 1992.
Well, and back to your point about Curaleaf, they were the only applicant that we actually had experience with in the community. And all these people who thought we were going to have problems, when Christine went back over all of our bios, we had nothing. We had not a single complaint about Curaleaf and what was supposed to happen. So we actually have had at least some experience, which we have not had that benefit with other applicants. Okay, go ahead, Brentley. Yeah. Go ahead, stand up and do your thing.
Okay, so we're gonna be doing renewal, I'm gonna list the renewals, second, and then the new ones first, because I just wanna get this, I know we all wanna go.
Yeah.
So, the new liquor licenses are, Nazera. This is a shish kebab restaurant, and the owners have no prior history in the restaurant business. This is the new restaurant that's opening on 108th Street, 64-06, Forest Hills.
they're an open restaurant, they're newly,
Correct.
applying for
Sorry.
liquor license. They
Yes.
didn't have a liquor license.
They did not have a liquor license.
We can get back to you.
You continue, I'll get back to you.
So the next one, this is a restaurant that it's called. God, these are really hard names tonight. And
Well, everybody did get it in their agenda.
So you don't have to-
You can just say what you think you can say, and everybody can look at their agenda.
if you look at the agenda, there's a lot. There's a good list of new ones. Some of these are restaurants that are currently in our community, and what they're doing is they are either changing from like a wine and beer to add wine, beer, and liquor. There may have been a change in ownership. So again, adhering to time, if you have questions on this, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions you